But I wanted to also say that we're commemorating the World Oceans Day, which is going to be commemorated on the 8th of June. So we've got quite a lot to celebrate today, and I'm glad that we're celebrating here in this beautiful venue of the seaport. So it is my distinct pleasure now to introduce and welcome our chief guests. And right now I'll ask the Acting Director General for the National Museums of Kenya, Mr. Stanvas Ongalo, to come and give us some brief remarks on behalf of the National Museums of Kenya, who have actually been our hosts while we've been here in Mombasa. Karibu sana. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon. Let me take this opportunity first to thank those ones who had organized this event for choosing National Museums of Kenya, particularly this for Jesus, so that we can have this advocacy on protection of cultural, underwater culture. I also want to recognize Herbert Gissin, Director Representative of UNESCO, the Regional Officer for East Africa. I know who is with us here. We were supposed to have Dr. John Henderson, Principal Investigator, who is looking at the rising the depth. But we have his representative, Arturo Rey da Silva, who is with us here. I recognize your presence. I also want to recognize the presence from the Secretary General, Kenya National Commission for UNESCO, that is Dr. Evangeline Njoka. She is with us here, recognize your presence. Judy, who has just been here, Ghana, from UNESCO. We have Johan Baratoli from the Film Department, he is with us, I think so. Dr. Purity Kura from National Museums of Kenya, been in charge of sites and monument. We have our principal curator, Fatma Tawir, and our only underwater archaeologist, Thinking Kenya, and the museum, Caesar Beta, who is with us here. Our MC has been with us, a representative from the county 001, that is Mombasa. I'm told we have also teachers who are with us here, who are teaching history, being part of us. The Mombasa community, who are surrounding the underwater cultural heritage and natural, they are with us. We have the Swahili Port, our stakeholders in this process, they are with us here. And the other brothers and sisters who have been participating in this training or this event from Africa, I welcome you. When I came here, I thought you are Kenyans. Well, I'm surprised we have different. We are looking alike. Eh? Welcome, welcome again. Once again, if there's another training, we welcome you to come back to Kenya. May I give my remarks on this? Want to say the history of Africa cannot be understood today without, that is, the inclusion of the important historical interactions that its people had within the marine environment and throughout with the rest of the world. The sea, as well as Africa's waterways and lakes, which are found in Africa, have been for centuries the main means of transport and livelihoods and remain so today. That is why we've included the community. Traces of this historical relation between society and its environment can be found not only in its intangible traditions and knowledge, but also in the material culture and archaeological remains found within the coastal areas and riverine areas and submerged in its waters. African coastal waters are imbued with vast marine resources which have been exploited for centuries in various manners. Research has also confirmed that the coastal communities of this region have had a long and continuous history of interaction with the oceans, that is, in terms of transcontinental maritime trade, among others. Further, some of the maritime cultures and activities are still perceived today. For instance, traditional boat building styles that have been practiced for centuries continue to play a role in the lives of our people. We have the dhow boats, those ones. Historical sources such as the periplus of Erythraean Sea and Ptolemy was the geographer, the Chinese and Arab records, which were found by Ibn Battuta, make reference to ancient seafaring on the African coast. For instance, Roman records mention ancient settlements of Lamu. The Chinese sources mention the presence of cattle economy on the Somali coast by late 800 AD, while Arab geographers of mid-900 AD allude to thriving maritime communities along the East African coast. Recently, investigations have produced data that corroborates these historical literary sources. Africa was visited by seafarers from as far as Greece, China, Persia, India. These interactions left behind on the seabed and foreshows material traces of the past. Studies have also shown that early settlements are found along the entire coast in close proximity of the oceans. This proximity suggests that over the years, parts of these coastal cities may have been submerged by the oceans owing to sea level changes and could today be lying deep below the sea. Underwater cultural heritage is an important source for humanity that needs to be protected and preserved for prosperity. However, managing these heritage resources represent a balance among competing forces and it's subject to changing financial climates. Without proper management, the exploitation of marine environments would result into a conflict and endanger resources for which underwater cultural heritage is part therefore. World over is under serious threat from rapid industrial development and climate change. With each and every development, the environment is impacted and more often cultural heritage is never spared the impact. In addition to the above, managing in sub-Saharan African region is challenged by inadequate personnel due to lack of underwater archaeology programs in local university. I mentioned that in our institution we only have one underwater archaeologist, so that is an area which needs to really work hard, train more personnel in that area. As such, it is only through increased capacity building that we as a region can take this forward. It is for this reason that I thank the Japanese government for funding this training workshop and UNESCO for continued support of these programs in the region. UNESCO has all along been very kind to us. In 2015, they supported training of 14 museum professionals drawn from several sub-Saharan African countries. In 2021, in partnership with ICOMAS, that is International Scientific Committee on the Underwater Cultural Heritage, and the Rising from the Depths Network organized on an online workshop which aimed at reinforcing capacities and knowledge concerning the research and preservation of this cultural heritage in the region. It trained 23 participants from the region and was attended by over 44 observers from across Africa and beyond. And now today, we are witnessing another training is seen a further more 14 more trained who are here. And thank you UNESCO for this support. It can be seen therefore that the region is increasing its capacity and in the management. For this matter, this reason I wish to urge the participants who are here with us here, who have completed this course, to set up aggressive maritime heritage programs in their countries and ensure that these resources are sustainable, managed. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take this opportunity to congratulate the trainees for this work they have done. They have surveyed Kenyan success shipwreck, assessed the maritime cultural heritage of Mombasa Old Town, and identified the emerging threats, the challenges and opportunities therein. Your report and recommendation will go a long way in improving our maritime cultural heritage in Kenya. As we celebrate the people and the sea, which is part of this project building capacity and raising awareness for underwater cultural heritage research in Africa, it is important to point to you that as you go back to your countries, sensitize communities and your leadership on the importance of safeguarding the underwater cultural heritage, and then probably later we shall evaluate and see whether that had an impact, your training to that. Again, as we commemorate the 5th anniversary of the World Heritage Convention and mark the World Ocean Day, which will be on 8th June this year, let us pass this message to our governments to increase management capacity and empower institutions to undertake this important role. There is no better way of doing this other than ratifying the UNESCO 2001 Convention on the Protection of the Underwater Cultural Heritage. I know my speech has been long, but with that, may I thank you for being here, for supporting this protection underwater, and also the communities here. Let's work together. Participants, you've been empowered to go to your countries and support this cause so that we achieve the cause of this. With those few remarks, thank you.
Thank you very much for those remarks and the encouragement especially the representatives of these different countries to go back to their countries and spread the word. Now, with no further ado, I'd like to invite Arturo Rey de Silva as representative of Rising from the Depths to give us a few encouraging remarks. Thank you. Karibu.
Jambo, asante. I would like first to apologize because Professor Dr. John Henderson couldn't attend because of the emergencies back in Scotland, University of Edinburgh, but you have humbled me to represent the Rising from the Depths project at the University of Edinburgh as well as a trainees for this capacity building. First of all, I would like to thank all the support, Mr. Stan Masongalo, Acting Director for National Museums of Kenya, also Dr. Evangeline Njaro for National Commission of UNESCO here in Kenya as well, and Professor Uwe Jitsen, Director and Representative of UNESCO in Kenya, for all the support that you've been giving to the protection of underwater cultural heritage. Also Judith, my friend, Sisavita as well, participants. It's for me a pleasure also to be here again because just saying some words about myself, I'm a maritime archaeologist and I started working with UNESCO already more than 10 years ago in the protection of underwater cultural heritage. And since that moment, one of the main aims that we had was the creation of capacities in Africa for the protection of underwater cultural heritage together with all the different heritage. And today, years later, now that I passed to work as well in the academic world, investigating more research in marine cultural heritage and sustainable development, I'm really happy to see so many participants from different countries in the whole of Africa that are already taking on or learning how to start initiatives and protect their underwater cultural heritage. We will have time to talk more about the course later and the training course, but we wanted to say some words as well from the project that I'm representing here today, Rising from the Depths. This project started already 5 years ago in 2017, in which at that time when we were looking into ways on how through heritage we could contribute to the life of coastal communities, to the achievement of sustainable development goals, we looking into all those possibilities and scoping and talking to the communities here in Africa as well. We mounted Rising from the Depths and got funding from the British government in order to finance projects that were, as an ultimate goal, look into how to harness and utilize marine cultural heritage for the sustainable economic, ecological, and social development of coastal communities in 4 specific countries, in Kenya, Tanzania, Madagascar, and Mozambique. And here today we are in the final phase of that project, in which 27 innovation projects are finishing and are showing very interesting results. Like, for instance, the project led by Mr. Sisavita, which has been modeling in the whole conceptualization of new approaches to work with marine cultural heritage. So I praise Sisavita for the fantastic work done in Mida Creek specifically. Probably we will have some time to talk about that as well, in which communities were put at the center of the protection of heritage, the well-being, the link with environment. That was one of the important aspects, and things that we've been looking in UNESCO for years as well, not that link between people, nature, and culture. So today, in that sense, when we started Rising from the Dead, we started also an important partnership with UNESCO at that time. Partnership that today, more than ever, is reinforced with the UNESCO Nairobi office in the presentation of the results of those projects of Rising from the Depths, together with implementation and ratification, or encouragement for ratification of the different cultural conventions. The Acting Director General was mentioning the 50th anniversary of the World Heritage Convention. We are in a World Heritage site here in Mombasa that is completely entombed by the sea. It is surrounded by sea and by underwater cultural heritage. We don't have to forget it. But last year was the 20th anniversary of the UNESCO 2001 Convention on the Protection of Underwater Cultural Heritage. So we are exactly in a precise, important moment in which Africa is looking out of the sea and looking to the sea. And here is a celebration of the people and the sea, and this is why we are gathering together members of the community as well. During the training, we had the chance also to get close to boat builders that they are here with us as well. And they were kind to show us the work, the worries, the concerns, and how things are changing, and that amazing heritage that is also passing by generations and changing as time passes by. I'm not going to stay myself more. I just wish you to enjoy and celebrate the sea with all of us. And I thank again all the institutions, specifically UNESCO, for all the support given and for the trust in me and in Rising from the Depths as well for constructing together new ways into harnessing marine cultural heritage and utilizing and improving policies. Thank you very much. Asante sana, karibuni. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Arturo, for that, and encouraging. And I know that all the trainees really owe a lot to you and the trainers for their growth in this particular area. Thank you. And now it is my distinct pleasure to invite Dr. Evangeline Joka, the Secretary General for the Kenyan National Commission for UNESCO, to come and give us a few words. The National Commission has been extremely supportive of the work that we're doing, and they're the liaison between ourselves as UNESCO and the government. So they've been very instrumental, particularly in trying to push the ratification of the convention. So karibu sana.
Thank you, Judy, and thank you for the wonderful work that you're doing. Let me begin by appreciating all the institutions that are represented here. Allow me to appreciate Professor Hubert, the Director, UNESCO Region Office for Eastern Africa, who I know already is very committed to supporting the underwater cultural heritage. It's only, I think, this week where we met and we had a meeting and we were talking about, indeed, the support of UNESCO to this initiative. The Acting Director General, Mr. Stanfas Ongalo, I don't know whether we met before. I think no. So glad to meet. We work very closely with the museums, and I'm happy to meet you this afternoon. The representative of Rising from the Depths, I'm excited. It's the first time I'm seeing this, institution, Rising from the Depths. In fact, when I was sitting there, I was wondering, who are these? And I'm happy indeed to meet with you. Thank you for the support. Thank you indeed for coming in training this important resource persons that we are having in Africa. Let me also appreciate all the county officials and also government officers who are here. All the wonderful participants coming across Africa. And I was also very, very excited to see the ladies, being trained, showing that, also we have gender, well, I wouldn't call it balance, but represented, isn't it? And this is good. So all invited guests, wherever you are, feel appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. So it is my pleasure to join you on this very important event after the training of capacity building and awareness raising training for underwater cultural heritage in Africa. And I'm indeed excited to see representatives from different countries and also different organizations who have participated in the training. And on behalf of the Kenya National Commission for UNESCO, allow me to appreciate the diversity indeed of these countries that are represented here, and also appreciate UNESCO for organizing this training and the stakeholders such as Rising from the Depths. I note with appreciation that the training aims at increasing professional and scientific capacity, also raise the awareness of research and protection needs in the academic community and in local communities, and illustrate how best practices in protection and presentation can be applied to underwater cultural heritage in the African region. It is undisputable that the training will impart useful knowledge and skills to participants, which will enhance the protection of underwater cultural heritage in Africa. And when I was sitting there, Judy was telling me Kenya needs to ratify. I don't know how many African countries that have ratified the underwater. 19 already, only. Oh, wow. But Kenya should be there. Kenya, we lead. So I think it's a challenge for Kenya to ensure that we do that. And I was also whispering to Judy that, I think it's in April, I don't know whether it's in April, that we had the National Commission supported a workshop with the stakeholders. And they were, they retreated to Naivasha, and they have drafted a cabinet memo. So we are following very closely for us, and we've been doing so for many years, but I think this time round, I believe we are winning, because already we have one convention that was assented to the other day. I think this is a convention, the 19? Yeah, the one of the illicit traffic of cultural, yeah. So we'll get there. We are almost there, and we'll do our best as the Commission. So oceans, as we know, they are very vital, and no wonder we shall be celebrating the World Ocean Day soon. And I'm also very happy that, we are embarking on this resource, looking at the underwater cultural heritage. And along the coastline, there is a lot of heritage, with us. I just came in, I saw the butterflies, and I didn't know there was a butterfly museum here. I know the kipepeo. And so I went round and they were telling me where they get the pupas. They are getting them from Arabuko Sokoke. And as you know, that one is now a man and biosphere reserve. So, and that is another resource for the, the coastal region. And there is a lot of heritage, but however, the underwater heritage remains underutilized for us. We have not really taken advantage of it, and I believe this is the time that we shall do that. When we met with Professor Hubert the other day, I was telling him, UNESCO has to help us, or he has to help us to have an underwater cultural museum. And he promised. So I'm hoping that promise, he's going to honor it. So I believe there is a lot that can be done. So I've chosen not to read this speech because it's long, because I know that actually we have a lot, to look together, to read together this afternoon, and also to celebrate and talk about. But let me say that the Commission is committed, indeed, to ensuring that actually we promote, indeed, the development of underwater cultural heritage. In fact, the German National Commission today, they wrote and they were asking, what areas of support do you think Kenya needs? And I think, we need to talk about, what is it that, we can ask them to assist in terms of the underwater cultural heritage. Because to me, this is where we need to go as a country, of course, as we ratify the convention. So thank you very much. Thank you all the stakeholders. We will continue to work together as the Commission and realize indeed the underwater cultural heritage across Africa, because this is our great resource that is underutilized, and we really need to all together pull together and work for it. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much. We've heard and underlined the commitment from the Kenya National Commission for UNESCO, and we will continue to pursue the ratification of the convention. That is really critical. And now it is my honor and pleasure to invite Professor Hubert Gizen, our director at the UNESCO Regional Office for East Africa, to give us some encouraging remarks. Welcome.
Asante sana, Judith. I noticed that the previous speakers didn't step up on the podium, but I can tell you, in spite of the fact that I'm very tall, the view is much better. I can see all of you, so good afternoon. Dear colleagues and friends, mabibina mabwana. There are certain advantages if you're the last speaker in a row. One of them is that everything has been said, so I left my speech on the table. I don't need to cover the same points that have been covered. The other advantage is you can skip the protocols. Everyone has been mentioned, recognized. But being a diplomat, it's always dangerous that you offend some people, so we have invented a very short terminology that we always use, and that is to say all protocols observed. So everyone has been addressed now. Yeah. Let me say I'm very happy to join you this afternoon in this beautiful and historic city of Mombasa, being on the coast, and in particular here at the footsteps of this marvel of a World Heritage Site of UNESCO, the Fort Jesus. And I must admit, I mean, I joined UNESCO quite late in my career, but Culture is not my background. I'm a scientist. I do things in biotechnology and so. But I must admit that culture is that mandate that I enjoy most. It brings me to these beautiful places, and there's always an excuse to visit a World Heritage. So I'm traveling with maybe you've seen the UNESCO World Heritage map. There is over 1,100 sites on the map now. So you can imagine I have a lot of work to do to visit all of these sites. So today, I think for underwater heritage, I couldn't think of a better place than this one. For Jesus on the seashore almost, but for those, and I think all of you have visited Fort Jesus, you've seen a lot of cannons there. Now they must have been used for something, and I suspect it was to shoot at ships. So when you talk underwater heritage, I expect there is quite a bit out there. I saw the whole lineup of cannons, so there must be a lot of shipwrecks in the coastal area. So what is underwater heritage about? Why is it so important? I think we're looking at underwater heritage. The definition in the convention is it must be heritage that is older than 100 years. So if it's a shipwreck, it should have been sunken 100 years and more. So we're looking really into the past. So you can really appreciate the history, the past, but there is value in the present. And also in the future, if you think about its potential for sustainable tourism development, for the blue economy. So let us work together to protect the underwater heritage because it is so valuable. Now protecting it, and that's the essence of the convention, is easier said than done. I would ask, how can you protect something that you can't see? It is underwater. It is already difficult to have here Fort Jesus, which is a cultural monument which everyone can see, and to protect that for most of the World Heritage sites, it is quite a challenge. Now you can imagine if things are underwater, it's much more difficult. So we have to basically redouble our efforts when it relates to underwater heritage. There is also threats to underwater heritage. My first posting for UNESCO was in Asia and the Pacific. I was the regional director for Asia and the Pacific, and there's a lot of shipwrecks under the water, but there was also a big concern about looting and the heritage taken out of the shipwrecks was then auctioned in public. I mean, I was really amazed to see that that was even possible. So we have to tighten and also work with member states to tighten the legislation around that. I mean, how is it possible that looting is illegal, but once it is on the shore, that you can have a public auction, an auction of this common heritage, just for profit? So that is a challenge, but there's also environmental challenges. The acidification of the ocean is affecting shipwrecks equally as it is the environment. Coastal development will affect also the shipwrecks that are in front of the coastline. So there are quite a number of threats. And as Eva just said, there is only 19 countries in Africa that have ratified what we call the 2001 Convention, and we really would like to see more countries in Africa come on board, ratify the convention. Therefore, it's important that we raise awareness on the importance of underwater heritage. So Eva, let's work together and get Kenya on board quickly. Yeah, and then from there we have 20. That means 34 to go in Africa. I would also like to mention that this year is also the 50th anniversary of another convention, and I know conventions are boring, they are not the most interesting part of the cultural sector, but the 72 convention is an important one. That's the UNESCO Convention on the Protection of World Heritage, and that's where the World Heritage Sites program comes from. So it started in 72, and you will see indeed the first listings on the World Heritage Map are from that period. So the connection is also there, the World Heritage Site here and the underwater heritage. I think I made that clear with the reference to all these cannons. There is a connection between that. I would like to thank all our partners without whom this wouldn't have been possible, and I would invite you to continue our joint journey. So thanks to the National Museum of Kenya, the government of Japan. I talked to the ambassador last week. He unfortunately couldn't join us, but he will visit soon, he promised, so he will get in touch with you for a visit. The Rising from the Depth Network, thank you very much. I heard about your network earlier, but it is indeed a network that's not very well known beyond the sector, the underwater heritage. So maybe we have to work on that as well, make it more known and create more awareness. The International Committee for Underwater Heritage, also a partner of UNESCO. So let us, in conclusion, let us cherish our heritage, let us protect our underwater heritage, and let us partner and work together, all of us, to make that happen. Thank you very much for being here this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those wonderful remarks and encouragement for us to all have a part to play in our preservation of our cultural heritage, whether it's underwater, world heritage, intangible cultural heritage. Any heritage is worth preserving. And so, as we've heard, it's very important for community to be participating in the protection of underwater cultural heritage. For that, we have a representative from the county government of Mombasa, and that's really critical because leadership in Mombasa has shown their interest in actually partnering with the different organizations in this endeavor. And so it is my pleasure to invite Aisha Abubakar, who is the Chief Officer for Cultural Affairs with the County Government of Mombasa, to come and give us a few words. Karibu sana and welcome.
Thank you. All protocol observed. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Aisha Abubakar, County Chief Officer in charge of Cultural Affairs, and I'm super excited today to be here with you this afternoon to make sure that we preserve our underwater cultural heritage. As we all know, Mombasa is surrounded by water, and it is our duty as people of Mombasa to make sure that we protect and preserve this cultural heritage that we have so that we keep it for our future generation. As a county government of Mombasa, we are really pleased to have all the stakeholders come on board to make sure that our culture is protected. And I'm very optimistic that together, if we hold our hands, if we stand together and we synergize our energy, we'll be able to make sure that aquatic life is preserved. And I want to say that as a county, we are very dedicated to make sure that we preserve all our cultures, underwater, physically, traditionally, name them. And that's the reason why we have a dedicated department under the Department of Youth, Gender and Cultural Affairs, which has a mandate to make sure that the cultural activities of Mombasa County is preserved. So I call upon each stakeholder who is around here today to make sure that we move together forward and preserve our culture as it's supposed to be. With those few remarks, I want to welcome all of you to Mombasa County. I know some visitors. Please enjoy the heritage that we have and make sure that you sample some of our cuisine which we have in Mombasa. Karibuni sana.
Thank you very much, and I can assure you that cuisine has been sampled and approved by all our visitors from across the continent. Can I hear an amen from there? No, fantastic. So we want to shift our gears a little bit, and I want to introduce a filmmaker who has created a film about our underwater cultural heritage here in Africa, and as part of the awareness raising effort. And before we actually show the film, I'll introduce Jahawi Bartoli to come and give us 2 words about the process of actually building this film, and then we will be able to watch it. Karibu sana, Jahawi Bartoli.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, I grew up on the Kenyan coast, and the ocean is my passion. So I've been focusing a lot of my work on filming underwater and trying to tell the stories of our underwater world. The thing is, this whole journey, when you think about it from a natural history perspective, yes, we're very connected to it, you know, but it's intangible, it's under the ocean, we can't see it. But in this journey, we want to try and get communities and people on a local level involved in the protection of our environment. And often what you come to when you come to that is that the environment and communities are interlinked. So you can't just look at nature without looking at the people who've lived off that nature for centuries. So this whole journey, when I got in touch, well, Judy got in touch with me and asked me about underwater cultural heritage. In the beginning, I was like, what is that? You know, it's a concept that's not really easy to put your finger on until you start going into it, because underwater cultural heritage is basically the encompassing of nature and humanity and our journey. And it's so important that, especially us as Africans, we really start looking into our cultural journey and how we moved, how we traded and all of that. So to be able to come and make a short film about underwater cultural heritage, I mean, for me it's been a great journey with a lot of learning, but it's also another way of trying to open up people to really understand just how important the ocean is to us, has been to our journey as Africans.
Africa's coast has a rich cultural heritage.
Lessons that we can find from the ocean. And I love spending time underwater, and the opportunity to sort of go diving on these incredible wrecks, to see history. I mean, that is incredibly unique and rare. And, you know, to be able to capture that and show it to a wider audience, for me, it's a privilege. So I thank you all for coming. I hope the film is okay. Yeah, I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you, Jahawi. Jahawi Barton, yeah? Did I get it right? Jahawi Barton. Okay, tupigeni makofi Jahawi. And okay, before the video, before the film, I'd like to thank all the guest speakers who've just spoken to us and given us a very good motivation in terms of the underwater cultural heritage. And I'm sure Caesar will be very motivated now to go on with the activities. But I'd also like to say that we have the Friends of Fort Jesus in the house. Friends of Fort Jesus are here. Can we see you? Yeah. Friends of Fort Jesus are here, and they're very supportive in terms of the heritage, cultural heritage, and we have interacted quite much in terms of really elevating the levels of the local community in terms of the economic structures and all that. So, Friends of Fort Jesus, you're welcome. Chairman Taibali, karibu sana. Karibuni sana. We also have the presence of the keeper, that is coastal antiquities and sites, Mr. Athman Hussein. Please, let's see you when Athman is amongst us, and he's also following the proceedings. Karibu sana, Bwana Athman. I also, today is a weekend, so I know people are in the weekend mood. And when Arturo was talking, I always remember Mourinho. Mourinho, the Man United guy. Do you remember Mourinho? Okay, so Arturo, a Spanish friend. But I also, in the course of that, I forgot Dr. Georgia Holy. Where is Dr. Georgia? Yes, she's there. I don't know, I'm very sorry I forgot. Dr. Georgia is one of the instructors who are here with the students. And so please, welcome to Mombasa. So let's go to the video, please, the film that is from Jahan. Let's watch this.
Africa's coast has a rich cultural heritage. Whether you catch a glimpse of it from the surface or fully immerse yourself in the underwater world, Africa's coast has a rich cultural heritage. Whether you catch a glimpse of it from the surface or fully immerse yourself in the underwater world, when you think of our underwater heritage, what comes to mind? Is it the amazing marine life that can be experienced off our coast? Or is there more? And what can we learn from what we find there? There is a big part of our history to be discovered. This is Africa's underwater cultural heritage.
Underwater cultural heritage actually has a number of meanings depending on where it is found and where it is located, but universally, as per UNESCO, is all traces of human remains that have been underwater for more than 100 years.
Underwater cultural heritage, for me, describes any cultural heritage that's submerged or just within a body of water or waterways that is involved with culture.
Underwater cultural heritage is a trace of every human interaction with the seas, which is cultural, has historical significance and archaeological significance as well.
For thousands of years, there has been trade and exchange of goods along Africa's coastline. Not only did we travel to foreign lands, but we attracted many to our shores too. So think of all this history that lies buried in the sea. Think of the knowledge of our ancestors and how they lived, or of the ships and their cargo that never completed their voyages.
In general, people think that underwater heritage is only shipwreck, especially colonial shipwreck or transatlantic shipwreck. Today in Africa, underwater heritage is linking communities, especially fishermen communities. For example, in Senegal today, you can see a shipwreck, World War II shipwreck, who is really connected with a fishermen community. Because we know shipwreck can give a better conservation of marine biodiversity, and the fishermen know that. That's why they contribute to protect this shipwreck.
Underwater cultural heritage to the African people means a lot. When you talk in terms of slavery, you find out that so many coastal areas along, say for example, let's start from Lagos, the Badagry axis. We go to Ghana, we go to Senegal, and so on and so forth. There are so many connections because we had a lot of interactions with the Portuguese, with the English, and several others. So UCH, in that regard, for Africans, talks about, how people were moved from Africa, to the Americas and all the other places, changing civilization globally.
Besides the underwater cultural heritage has a material thing, we have the material aspects that are really, really important to understand. And I would give an example if you look to the Eastern African coast, especially what is known as the Swahili coast. We share a lot in common. starting from Somalia, Kenya, Tanzania, and part of Mozambique. These communities share a way of living that is quite similar in exploring the maritime resources. The way they dress, the way they dance, the way they sing, even the language is similar. So all of that was only possible because of the strong network that was established along the coastline, and these people were interacting together over centuries.
Miaka iliyopita ya nyuma ilikuwa usafiri ni watu wasafiri na mashua hizi za mbao, wengine wakitumia majamvi. Wakati huo alikuwa hakuna tanguo, ndo zikifanywa zikifungwa zikifuata upepo tu. Alikuwa ni kufuata upepo tu mpaka upepo unapofika hivyo ndo mwisho. Upepo kirudi unarudi nyumbani.
Underwater archaeology has helped us discover the amazing wonders of Africa's history and how cultures interacted, helping us understand the world we live in today. There are many UNESCO World Heritage Sites along Africa's coast, and often under the ocean around them, one can find underwater cultural heritage sites, which are also in need of protection.
When I'm asked why did UNESCO set up the 2001 Convention on the Protection of the Underwater Cultural Heritage, then the answer is actually very easy. Because we need it. We need a convention, what is a treaty binding states, to bring everyone together in the fight to protect the submerged heritage of this world. In 2001, when this convention was elaborated, there was a huge issue with the pillaging, large-scale pillaging of the shipwrecks. Of course, with the adoption of the convention, that didn't disappear like that, but working together, bringing states to ratify, we have seen an improvement in at least combating pillage, in combating commercial treasure hunt. And I mean, I speak of sites that sometimes, encompassed 500,000 artifacts, so real big issues,
The convention is important because the heritage we have underwater, resources that could disappear, could, be destroyed if it's not protected. So with those regulations, we have the hope that those things can be well protected, managed, and then sustainably utilized for the future.
The UNESCO 2001 Convention is such a strong and a powerful document that help first prevent this treasure hunting activity, and second, it sets the basic aspects on how the scientific research should be done. It helps on setting the guidelines on how material should be preserved and how the material can be also displayed to the public.
Kenya has invested heavily on capacity building, training, and infrastructure development. We have trained lab technicians, people who can conserve artifacts from underwater. We have trained underwater archaeologists, like myself, have been trained by the government. So that expertise has allowed me to now be able to train other people. And with UNESCO support, we've been able to do 2 trainings here in Kenya for people from different parts of sub-Saharan Africa. And now we have a pool of professionals in underwater archaeology.
This submerged part of our heritage is part of our national treasure, to be appreciated by all, not just a few, which is why we must protect it.
In case you find an underwater cultural heritage site, meaning an ancient shipwreck, a sunken structure, and you have the feeling that no one knows about it, then first of all, don't touch, don't destroy, don't damage, don't take anything if there's not an imminent danger, and inform the authorities. The port authorities, the museum, the archaeologists. If you do not know whom to address, UNESCO has actually a list of the responsible authorities on its website. And, make it known to the authorities and try to make also everyone else, aware that this site should be protected.
When we discover a site underwater, the first thing we do is to confirm what type of a site it is, the typology of that particular site. It could be a landscape, it could be a construction, maybe a monument of, built of stone or whatever kind of monument, or it could be a shipwreck. Thereafter, then we do a survey to establish the